Actions speak louder than words, don't they? When you remember to bring these wonderful things for VTAC, that's an action. When you bring socks and when you bring cereal, that's an action. Actions speak louder than words. According to this Gospel of John, which Matt just read to us, Jesus was in action. He had arrived for the rededication of the great Jerusalem temple. He was walking into Solomon's porch, and the Jews surrounded their brother and fellow Jew, Jesus, and said, "How long are you going to keep us in suspense? Tell us clearly, are you who you say you are?" Now, you need to know, the preceding chapters of the Gospel of John were full of stories of Jesus doing and telling people who Jesus was through Jesus' actions. The book opens saying, the Gospel of John opens saying, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." It says that Jesus was God. Then that other John, John the Baptist, came proclaiming who Jesus was through his actions. Then Jesus changed water into wine. Then Jesus talked all night with the Pharisee Nicodemus about being reborn of the Spirit. Then Jesus healed an official's son from death. Then Jesus healed the invalid at the pool of Bethesda. Then Jesus fed 5,000. Then Jesus told those who followed him time and time again, "I am not here on my own, but God who sent me is represented in me, and God is true. I am from God. God has sent me." Then Jesus said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness." Again, Jesus has said, "You are from below, I am from above." And then Jesus healed a blind man. You remember that story? He spit on the ground, made a paste of the dirt and saliva, and put it on the man's eyes, and told the man to go wash in the pool of Siloam. Actions. And finally, Jesus says, "For judgment I have come into the world, so that the blind, the metaphorically blind, will see." And so we get to this 10th chapter as Jesus is in action, is going to the dedication of the temple, and he is stopped by the authorities. And they say to him, "You keep us in suspense. How? Tell us plainly. Are you who you say you are?" Now, to be fair to the Pharisees, they were on their way to the dedication of the temple too. But they were on their way to the dedication of the temple, remembering when the Greeks had overrun the great temple and performed pagan rituals in the temple, in the very Holy of Holies. The Jews were looking for the Messiah who would protect them and prevent such a horrible desecration from ever happening again. Jesus, on the other hand, was talking about a new way of living which wounded warriors were having a great deal of trouble seeing. Those who stopped Jesus wanted a fight. Jesus wanted peace. Jesus wanted concord between everyone. Those who stopped Jesus on Solomon's porch wanted an uncontested victory. Well, if the Jews wanted a fight, they certainly got it. This passage is one of the passages of the Bible that has been used to persecute and kill Jews for over 2,000 years. Matt, I will never again believe you when you say to me that you barely had time to prepare a communion meditation. Those who use the Crusades use this passage because it doesn't talk about the Jewish authorities. It just says the Jews. Hitler used this passage to persecute the Jews. Many conservative Christians still use this passage because it says, the Jews. This passage calling the temple authorities the Jews instead of the temple authorities, or simply those that doubted, has separated communities into them and us for thousands of years. And still today, every time the word "we" is thoughtlessly used, it designates a group of insiders, however well-intentioned they may be, who have identified themselves as somehow different from the theys. Many might say, moving closer to home, that by having churches worship in this very building, in this very little white chapel, whose belief systems are vastly different from ours, no women are allowed in leadership, no people of color are allowed in their worship, no place for differently abled people in their praise, we are allowing the theys to have pagan ritual on our very altar. Others might say, by using this building for outrageous ecumenism, inviting all, having all kinds of worship services in this sacred place, as Matt said, being outrageously open and affirming when you get to the door before the service even starts. The table of welcome is spread wide open. It is outrageously large and diverse. Little White Chapel congregation has learned to disagree without being disagreeable. There have been scholarly articles written which describe before worshipers even get to the worship table, to the welcome table, the age of the building, the state of the structure. Those things welcome or unwelcome people before they even get into worship. In just a few minutes, our Sanctuary Beautification Committee will step before you and unveil their work for your approval. And the theme of their presentation will be not ripping apart our church and making it into some horrible thing. The theme of their presentation will be about welcome. Friday night, we had our open mic night, and it is certainly a theme of welcome. They're just as zany and crazy. You never know what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. And those of you who were there remember that a little girl waited and waited for her mother to bring her cell phone. Do you all remember that? And the reason that she wanted the cell phone, I remember this little girl, and for those of you who had come to open mic nights before, she was the little girl who had volunteered to turn cartwheels while her friends sang a song. And she performed these cartwheels excellently, and then her friend decided she wanted to sing the song again. That night, the little girl went, okay. And she did the cartwheels again. Well, she came back, and she was waiting for her mother to bring the cell phone, and the cell phone had lyrics on it so that she could sing. Well, I was running up and down the stairs back and forth, and I didn't see that her mother had slipped in and given her the cell phone and slipped out. But I saw her sitting there, and she had a very large cell phone, and she was waving at me, so I guess that meant she was ready. And I said, being ever the MC, trying to measure up to Brandy, I said, "So, is your mom here? I want to meet her." And she said, "Oh, my mom's too busy to stay and hear me sing. She has other things to do." And she sat there in the chair by herself. So I called her up to sing, and this is the song that she sang in a voice hoarse from being a teenager and screaming all the time. I don't know if you can hear me or if you're even there. I don't know if you listen to a little girl's prayer. Yes, I know I'm just an outcast and I shouldn't speak to you. Still, I see your face and wonder, were you an outcast too? God help the outcasts, hungry for birth. Show them some mercy they don't find on earth. She sat there in the chair by herself. So I called her up to sing. And this is the song that she sang. In a voice hoarse from being a teenager and screaming all the time. I don't know if you can hear me or if you're even there. I don't know if you listen to a little girl's prayer. Yes, I know I'm just an outcast and I shouldn't speak to you. Still, I see your face and wonder, were you an outcast too? God help the outcasts, hungry for birth. Show them some mercy they don't find on earth. God help all people. We look to you still. God help the outcasts, or nobody will. As people walk in Little Whitechapel's doors, as they seek, feel drawn, and are led to the table, whether they come with a family or not, may they recognize themselves as the family who belong to Jesus' sheep, because you and I welcome them, because this ever-changing historic building itself, with its breakers that need replacing and its floors that have been replaced, that this building in its flux and its change hails them, greets them, fascinates them, makes them to home, and draws them into God's welcome table, where God's actions speak louder than any words.